considering that we're just in the middle of summer and we've declared an end to drought, that's really pretty unusual. Normally at this point we just don't get this much rain.
The rain has brought some much needed relief to Central Texas, and it has allowed the Barton Springs Edwards Aquifer Conservation District to lift the drought declaration for now.
But as we've had an extra wet spring and early summer, that pushed all the triggers that we consider for drought above their thresholds. We had considerable rain back in May, and that pushed Barton Springs flow well out of drought and good steady flow for quite some time. And our Lovelady monitor well is always a little slower to respond to these rain events, but eventually we got enough rain, we got enough flow in the creeks, we got enough recharge going on to reach it into the aquifer, and that started pushing water levels up and increased spring flow at Barton Springs.
Conservation is key in keeping us out of drought conditions. Keep in mind, May through September is our water conservation period. During this time, the district initiates a voluntary 10% reduction in groundwater pumping by its permittees, and Austin Water Utility restricts outdoor watering to no more than twice per week.
So the more that people can do to conserve, both the end users who can minimize watering their lawn and other uses of water, and the water purveyors that can get the message out about continuing to keep water usage low, will just make it a longer period of time before we might be back in drought. If pumping continued at a very high rate, that would speed up the re-entry into drought. If we don't get more significant rain, we'll probably be out of drought for at least 2 months before we could re-enter. And with some moderate amount of rains, it could be even longer. But with the idea that it might not be long before we get enough lack of rain that water levels will go down, spring flow will go down, and we could be back where we have declared drought conditions perhaps by the end of the summer.
Meanwhile, a La Nina watch has been issued by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. This means we could see warmer and drier conditions in the fall and winter if La Nina does indeed develop.
Well, the whole El Nino, La Nina conditions are based on oceanic conditions off the west coast of about Ecuador in that part of South America. But it's a huge area that gets concentrated with higher water temperatures, and that has a significant effect on a good portion of North America and even the Pacific. So El Nino is actually a good thing for us. That's when the water temperatures are higher in the Pacific Ocean, often what they call the Eastern Pacific, and so that will bring more rain here. But La Nina conditions are just the opposite. So we end up with drier conditions with La Nina, and so that means that we're more likely to be in drought, or we could be in drought sooner. But there's a lot of uncertainty about which direction El Nino and La Nina will go, and much of the time we're in neutral conditions that could bring wet or dry conditions for us here in Central Texas.
Bottom line, Mother Nature is hard to predict, so please continue to do your part to conserve.
We're hoping that we'll be able to continue into the fall, and with fall there's less water usage. Any rain that does happen is more likely to get into the aquifer. So we're trying to be optimistic that we will stay out of drought for some time to come. But it all depends on future rains.